Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We did it again, y'all. We did it again. We got through another week. Of craziness, celebrity people doing crazy stuff, and just regular people doing crazy stuff. But hey, listen, guess what? We still made it through. We talked about a few different things this week. Just some different relationship stuff, to anybody out there who's been like me, a hi guy, and different people like that. But what I want to talk about today is, what do you think that people think about you? You know how we'll always say, and you'll hear this a lot, especially from women, I don't care what people think about me. Know what I mean? I ain't worried about that. I'm my own person. I don't care what people think about me. Have you ever run across a person or worked with a person who is just a jerk, just a clown, just a degenerate, and you said to yourself, you know what? I can't stand being around this person. Just being around this person makes me sick. Or, like when you have another kind of gathering or whatever, or, even if you played on the team, whatever, and you just had one of these kind of people around, and you start saying to yourself, I can't stand being around this person. But a lot of times we never look back to say to ourselves, guess what? Have I been that person? Am I that person to the inner circle that I deal with? And so that's what happens. Because once again, I always talk about, from my perspective as a guy who's 51, and I more or less now do way more, of course, than when I was younger, more reflection back to the way I am as a person. And sometimes even in my own head, I'll get offended by certain things that I feel like other people should be doing what I'm doing. But then what I'm doing may not be up to the standards of what other people feel like I should be doing. So what will they say about you? And I think about that a lot. Shout out to one of my brothers, Malcolm. We had a good conversation about some of this kind of stuff. And as always, a lot of times on the platform, I talk about being supportive, being helpful, just being, showing up and showing out for people, the people that you love, the people that you care about. But ultimately, what will they say? Because people always got something to say, right? Oh, you know what? He cool, but once he start getting in his such and such, you can't tell him nothing. Yeah. Well, you know what? She's a nice person, but she ain't gonna never don't go out with her because she ain't gonna never leave the tip. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? When I go out with these X amount of friends, everybody starts getting the bill, looking at the bill like, okay, I had one piece of French toast, I had 2 turkey sausage, I had, one of those kind of people. Or you got some other people who are just downright cheap for whatever reasons. They don't want to spend. They don't want to, like I've said before, you guys go out to the bar, go somewhere, and it's time to ante up for the drinks. And this person, they always, you know what? I'll just take a seltzer water. Well, let me see, because a lot of times we go more hood places than that. Let me just get a rum and coke. Yeah, what about you don't want to hook up anybody else? And then we also had the people who religiously talk about other people, talk behind their backs all the time. And once again, this is nothing that none of us have done because it's human nature. But what I'm bringing this up for is because, like me, I want you to see which parts of these are yours. Because we know life is all like how Forrest Gump say, a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So there's always things that all of us need to continuously work on. Like there's never a perfect product. right? There may be a quote unquote perfect moment for us, but there's never going to be a perfect product, and we're always in the pursuit of being better people, or at least that's what we should be. And so that's why I asked that question. How will people look at you? How do people look at you? Do people look at you as a supporter or a fire starter? Do people look at you as a help or a helper or a hindrance? Do people look at you overall, and here's the big one for me, selfish or unselfish? Because even as that, as I've said before, selfishness is typically the root of a lot of bad things. Because selfishness typically requires just the thought of what you want. So your actions start to display things about what you want, not about what's best for the team. You know, that's what the good thing is, that, and even though I stopped playing team sports 8th, 9th grade, so I never, really had any tick in high school. I made a little JV thing, but I quit that because I wasn't getting any tick playing football. So, but for years, since 5, 6 years old, I've always played team-oriented sports. I always played team-oriented games. I always was about inclusion on doing stuff as a team. So I kind of know how to, and other guys that play sports, they know this too. Or you get to learn how to play on a team. But that doesn't mean that everybody gets the concept of how to be a great teammate. Even in relationships, when I go back and we talk about relationships all of the time, it's about a cohesion. It's about a certain type of wanting to work together. It's about wanting to do the right thing. And so many times it's hard to do the right thing because temptation always tries to get us to do the wrong thing, or the thing that's most advantageous to us, as opposed to all of us just stopping for a minute and saying, am I doing enough to help my brother? Am I doing enough to help my sister? Am I being supportive enough of my parents? Am I being helpful enough of my older aunts or uncles? See, a lot of stuff that we don't think about, because a lot of times, life does. It's like a tunnel vision. So all we worried about is us and our kids, and some of us ain't even really worried about our kids. And a lot of people are not worried as much about their kids. And what I mean by that is that, of course, they worry and love about their kids, but they're not spending the requisite time to show how much they worry about their kids. What will people say about you? Well, they say, damn, he was a damn good father. Well, they say she was a damn good mother. She did more just than make sure they looked like it was Easter Sunday every day. She made sure that they had more than just a number 2 at McDonald's every other day. He made sure that he showed up for all of the plays and the little dances and the football games. Because we all know a lot of times, we go out to watch Pop Warner or whatever football, and, it's almost like a club. It's nothing but women. The only guys out there are the football players, the referees, and the coaches. So what will they say? And ultimately, in closing up, what would they say about you as a man? I think about that all the time. What would they say about me as a man? Because I know in life I've underachieved and done some other things that I shouldn't have done. But you know what I try not to do? I try not to have whatever my shortcomings are be the stress of a bunch of other people. I try not to have my shortcomings have to have other people get in trouble or bail me out, and people look at me as like, wow, you know what? Being around him is a detriment. Being around him is not worth being around him. As a man, none of us want to go out as the guy that people looks at as the loser. You don't want to feel like you're a loser. At times I felt like a loser. But because I know that I'm going to go and see this whole thing through, no matter how much longer I got left on earth, I have an obligation to myself. Yeah, the kids and family members and friends, but I got an obligation to myself. And you have an obligation to yourself to be the best possible man you can be. And a lot of us are out there being the best possible men that we can be. But there's still room for growth. There's still room for even other men that may not think like we think or hear what we hear or discuss what we discuss on a regular basis. Because we're going to talk about this a little bit next week. Community requires maturity. Community requires maturity. And that starts with the men. So when it's all said and done with, now forget that. Even before it's all said and done with, even before, you know how they always say what they're going to put on your tombstone and everything. What do they say about you now? How do people feel about you now? And all of us could say, well, I don't really care that much. Who cares what they feel about me? That's the easiest thing to say, right? But really, how do people view you right now as a man or as a woman? Do people look at you with respect, or do people look at you with disdain? And most times we know. Now we do get a couple people that we don't know that really don't care for us, and that's always the way it's going to be. Because guess what? Everybody's just not going to like you. You could be a great person, but everybody's just not going to like you for whatever reason, because they feel like you took something from them. You may take something from them. You're threatened by them. You're intimidated, because we all go through all of these ranges of emotions where we feel as though something that's supposed to be ours isn't ours, and it's their fault that it's not ours. If it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for her, if she would have treated me better, if he would have been more of a supportive friend, if they would have been a better parent, everything would be just fine for me. But that's not the way life works, right? That's not the way things go. Because we forget in our pursuit of wanting to put stuff on other people, we have to put most of it on ourselves. We all get the same 24. All get the same 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week. It's not going to change. So when people start asking, hey, it's like a job interview, but a life interview. So when people start asking, what type of person are you? What can you say? What can you say right now? Can you say people look at me as a leader? Or do people look at me as a loser? Do people look at me in a great way? Or do people look at me as a joke? So we're not waiting until we're off of this earth. We need to know right now. So, hey, besides that, you know how we do every Friday. Want everybody to go out, have a good weekend, go out, get yourself a date. If you don't have one, hey, listen, date yourself. Take yourself out and go get something nice to eat. It's been a heat wave up here. And on the East Coast in Philly, it's cooling down a little bit. It's a little bit of rain, but go outside, go somewhere, have a good time. If you haven't taken your husband or wife out in a while, hey, take them out. Tell the kids, look, we'll be back. We'll get a babysitter. But until Monday, matter of fact, maybe until tomorrow. But either way, you enjoy your weekend, and we'll get back. Oh, what did I forget to say? Oh, okay. Live life. Don't let life live you.